Anyone? So entomology is the study of insects, basically arthropods. So medical entomology means study of arthropods of medical importance, like which are related to humans, like the insects or which transmits the diseases to humans. So those are called as important for us. So that is called as medical entomology. So let's see about this in details under the following headings. So by end of this class, I expect you to learn what is medical entomology, what is the importance of important arthropods of medical importance, how these arthropod-borne diseases have been classified, how these arthropod-borne diseases are transmitted, and what are the principles of control of arthropod-borne diseases. And we will discuss some of the important arthropods which is of medical importance, examples like mosquitoes, houseflies, and so many other arthropods. So we'll discuss all those things in detail, and in today's class in particular we'll discuss in detail about mosquito, what are the types of mosquitoes sorry, what are the types of mosquitoes, how it is classified, different types, and how diseases, what are the different various diseases it transmits, how to prevent these mosquitoes. So under the approach called as integrated vector control. Okay, that is called as integrated approach. So we'll discuss all these things today in detail. So coming to the definition of medical entomology. So it is the study of arthropods of medical importance. Is called as medical entomology. It means that, so what are the arthropods which are medically important to humans, which causes or which transmits the disease to the humans. Only those arthropods are called as, comes under medical entomology. So importantly, these are classified into 3 types. So basically we have 3 different types of arthropods of medical importance. First is insecta, then arachnida, then crustacea. So the class insecta, what are the arthropods which comes under class insecta? One is mosquitoes. Examples for mosquitoes are Anopheles, Culex. Culex means Culex mosquito, Aedes mosquitoes, or Mansonia mosquitoes. So these are all the various types of mosquitoes. Next group is flies. So flies can be house flies, sand flies, CC flies, or black flies. So all this comes under flies category. Next, human lice. So human lice can be head louse, body louse, or crab louse. So these are all the different types of human louse which transmits diseases to the humans. Next category is fleas. So fleas examples, rat flea, sand flea. So rat flea can cause plague and all those things. Next is red-winged bugs. So these are all the various types of arthropods comes under the class insecta. So next class is arachnida. So in arachnida we have 2 groups. One is ticks, the other group is mites. So examples for ticks are hard tick and soft ticks, and for mites it is leptotrombidium and trombiculate or itch mite. So these are all the different types of mites. So ticks and mites comes under the category of arachnida. So the next class is crustacea. So examples for crustacea is Cyclops. So that's how the arthropods which are related to humans, which are of medical importance, are basically classified into insecta, arachnida, and crustacea. So this classification is important. So there are so many other arthropods which are also there. So there are so many different types of insects, but only these types are important to humans because these types of insects which transmits the diseases to the humans. Okay, understand? So that's about the classification of arthropods which is of medical importance. So all these things are We will all these things we will discuss in detail in next classes. So next coming to distinctive characteristics. As we have seen three different classes, right? Like Insecta, Arachnida and Crustacea. So what is the distinctive features to differentiate between these three different classes? Let's see. So coming to the body division, okay, basic arthropods usually contain three different parts like head, thorax and abdomen. So with regarding to body divisions, Insecta has three different distinct parts, like it is differentiated into head, thorax and abdomen. So examples for insects are mosquitoes, houseflies and all those things. So when you see the mosquito, the body is properly divided into head, thorax and abdomen. So next, in case of arachnida, the body is not clearly differentiated into these three parts. So it has only two parts. One is cephalothorax and the other part is abdomen. So thorax and head together forms the cephalothorax. So same thing in case of crustacea also. The body is divided into only two types. One is cephalothorax and the second is abdomen. So next coming to the legs. So in Insecta, it has three pairs of legs, whereas Arachnida has four pairs of legs, and Crustacea, five pairs of legs are present. Next, coming to antenna. Antennae for Insecta, only one pair of antennae is present for Insecta. Next, Arachnida, there is no antenna. For Crustacea, like Cyclops, it has two pairs of antenna. Okay. Next, coming to wings. So for Insecta, the wings can be one or two pairs. Okay, some are wingless also. Example for wingless insect under Insecta is head louse. So head louse is a wingless animal. Okay. Next is Arachnida. Arachnida, it might or ticks. It doesn't contain any wings, so it doesn't have absence of wings. That's why it cannot fly. Next, Crustacea also, Cyclops also, it doesn't have wings. Okay. Next, what is the habitat where you find these different insects? So Insecta, usually houseflies or mosquitoes usually find on the land. Okay. So Arachnida, it might or whatever it is find on the land again. And then Crustacea, the Cyclops, commonly you see it in water. So these are the various distinctive features about the different classes. So some of the pictures here I'm showing you, all these insecta and all those things like mosquito, houseflies. So this is a Cyclops. I think you might have seen during your practicals. So we have discussed in practical classes about the Cyclops and its medical importance. And then this is itch mite. So next we'll move on to what are the diseases these arthropods causes. So what are the arthropod-borne diseases? What are the various arthropods and what are the diseases it transmits? Let's see. So mosquitoes. So mosquitoes transmits various types of diseases. There are so many diseases which transmitted by mosquito. Example are malaria, filaria, viral encephalitis, viral fevers like dengue, viral hemorrhagic fevers like yellow fever. So these are all different types of diseases which are transmitted by different types of mosquitoes. So in mosquitoes also we have different types. So we'll discuss all those things in detail in this coming slides. Okay, next is sandfly. So sandfly causes Kala azar, oriental sore, sandfly fever, Oria fever. So these are all the different diseases caused by sandfly. Next is CC fly. So CC fly causes sleeping sickness. Next, head louse. So head louse causes various types of diseases like epidemic typhus, relapsing fever, trench fever, pediculosis. So pediculosis are usually related with humans. Next is heart tick. So heart tick causes tick typhus, viral encephalitis, viral fevers, viral hemorrhagic fevers like KFT means Carcino forest disease. Next, tularemias, tick paralysis, human babesiosis. So these are all diseases which are transmitted by heartbeat. So you should know there is one specific thing here. All these arthropods, they simply transmit the disease. So they act as a vectors. They are not the positive agent. So you should know the difference between the positive agent and vector. So these are all the vectors, but the positive agent is different. Suppose if you take malaria, okay, filaria. So all these things, the positive agent is different. Then mosquitoes, ants, CC+, these are all the vectors. Like vectors means which transmit the disease from one human being to other human being. Okay, you should know the difference between the positive agent and vector, right? So next, some more diseases are there. So the diseases which are transmitted by soft tick or Q fever, relaxing fever. And coming to housefly also transmits so many different types of diseases like typhoid, paratyphoid fevers, diarrhea, cholera, gastroenteritis, amoebiasis, helminthic infections, poliomyelitis, conjunctivitis, trachoma, anthrax, and yaws. So all these are very, very important. So next coming to rat flea. So rat flea usually the most common type of disease it transmits is plague. So bubonic plague, endemic typhus, and shigellosis. So these are all the diseases which are transmitted by rat flea. Next is black fly. So it transmits onchocerciasis. Next, Ridwick bug. It transmits Chagas disease. Next, itch mite. So itch mite usually transmits scabies. Next, like Cyclops. Cyclops transmits guinea-worm diseases. Next, last group is the cockroaches. They act as a enteric pathogens which are transmits food poisoning or intestinal related diseases. So these are the various arthropods of medical importance and the diseases which transmitted by these arthropods. So next coming to what are the various routes of transmission of these arthropod borne diseases we'll see. So basically the arthropods transmits the diseases in three different routes. One is direct contact, next is mechanical transmission, and third one is a biological transmission. So let's see what are these things. So first is the direct contact. So direct transmission is nothing but the arthropods spreads the diseases directly from man to man through close contact, like through touch or any other ways. Like through close contact, it directly transmits the disease from one person to other person. So examples for these are scabies and pediculosis. So scabies, if a person is having scabies, so from the contact of the person's skin, the other person gets it. So that's called as direct contact. And pediculosis is also same, head loss the head loss transmits this disease. So if a person is very close contact, then definitely the person gets through direct contact. So next is the mechanical transmission. So mechanical transmission here, the disease agent is transmitted mechanically by the arthropod. So it mechanically transmits the disease. So the best example for mechanical transmission is houseflies. So houseflies mechanically transmits the disease from one person to other persons. So examples are diarrhea, dysentery, typhoid, and food poisoning. So these houseflies, when it feeds on the foods, from there it transmits to other person. Okay, so it all the diarrhea, dysentery, or typhoid, or food poisoning, all these are transmitted through houseflies by mechanical transmission. So next is the biological transmission. So what is meant by biological transmission? So here what happens is the disease agent, that means the agent or microorganism which causes the disease, it gets multiplies in the arthropod or vector. So it can undergo some changes, some developmental changes, like it can complete its life cycle or it can multiply its number, like it can undergo reproductive or sexual cycles. So that is called, and it undergo all those changes in arthropod or vector. Okay, so and then it transmits the disease. So that is called as biological transmission. So biological transmission is nothing but the disease agent or microorganism that gets multiplies or undergoes some developmental changes inside the arthropod host. So, and then it transmits the disease. That's called as biological transmission. So, there are three different types of biological transmission. So, it can be propagative, cyclopropagative, and cyclodevelopmental. So, what is meant by propagative type of biological transmission? So, propagative means it multiplies its number. So, the disease agent or microorganism, it undergoes multiplication. It undergoes sexual cycle in the arthropod host. Okay. So best example is plague. So next is cyclopropagative. So cyclopropagative means the microorganism can undergo both developmental changes and also multiplication. Both can happen. So cyclo means it undergoes what you call developmental changes. So it completes its life cycle, and also propagative means it multiplies its number. So the best example is malaria. Okay, so malarial parasite undergoes developmental change also, and also it multiplies. So sexual and asexual cycles takes place in the arthropod host. So next is cyclo-developmental. So cyclo-developmental means only it undergoes, it completes its life cycle. Okay, only morphologically it completes its life cycle. So example is microfilaria larva. So you must know the differences between all these things: propagative, cyclo-propagative, and cyclo-developmental. So this is very important. So that's how these are the three different routes of transmission of arthropod-borne diseases. So next coming to the control of arthropod-borne diseases. So how do you control these arthropod-borne diseases? Okay, basically it is controlled by these various methods in general. So one is environmental control, chemical control, biological control, genetic control, and neo methods. So environmental control means doing some changes in the environment. Examples like source reduction. It means that suppose mosquitoes are there. So wherever the mosquito breeding places are there, wherever it breeds, like it lays eggs, or and where it forms the larva. So removing those places. Okay, so that is called as environmental control. And some other examples under environmental control are, so if mosquitoes which breeds in any dirty water or sewage, so clearing of the sewage, like that, doing some environmental changes. So all those measures comes under environmental control. So next is the chemical control. So chemical control is nothing but by using some insecticides or pesticides controlling the insects. So that's examples like using DDT or DHC or malathion, malathion abate, and pyrethrum. All these chemicals or insecticides we use to kill these insects or arthropods. That comes under chemical control. Next is biological control. So biological control is nothing but by growing some fishes which eats of the eggs or larvae of the arthropods. So best example is Gambusia fish. You might have heard about Gambusia fish. So it eats or kills the larvae. It eats off all the larvae of the mosquitoes, and that's how it kills the arthropods. Okay, on larvae of the arthropods. That comes under biological controls. And genetic controls and newer methods, these are under trials yet. So there are some genetical changes which make us which can take place. So with that we can kill the, or we can control the arthropods. Like some changes in the reproductive cycle of the mosquitoes or any arthropods. Doing all such things measures, we can control the genetic. We can control the arthropods genetically. So these we will discuss in detail in next slides. So that's about the general introduction about all the arthropods. So what are the different types of arthropods, how they are classified, and what are the diseases various arthropods transmit. Okay, and what are the general principles for controlling of various arthropods. So next we'll move on to different arthropods in detail. So today's class I will discuss in detail about the insecta. Okay, example is mosquito. So regarding mosquito, I'll discuss in this class in detail. So what are the different types of mosquitoes? What are the diseases? Different types of diseases which are transmitted by mosquitoes, and how do you control it? What are the various preventive measures to control the mosquitoes we'll discuss in this class. So mosquitoes constitute the most important single family of insects from public health point of view. Definitely, it is a public health concern because there are so many mosquitoes which transmit various types of diseases, which I have already discussed. So that's why it is very, very important to know what are the different types of mosquitoes, how it transmits the disease, okay, and how to control these mosquitoes and all. So basically, we have four important groups of mosquitoes, which is of public health importance in India. So examples are Anopheles, Culex, Aedes, and Mansonia mosquito. So these four types of mosquitoes are important for us. Okay, so Anopheles, Culex, Aedes, and Mansonia. So next coming to the general morphology of the mosquitoes. So as I told you, the insecta, the body is properly it is divided into three parts: head, thorax, and abdomen. Right? So the mosquito comes under insecta. So it is broadly classified into head, thorax, and abdomen. Head contains a pair of large compound eyes and it has a long proboscis. Okay, this proboscis helps for biting. Okay. Next, it contains a pair of palpae on either side of the proboscis and with a pair of antennae. So there is a small differentiation between male and female mosquitoes. In male mosquitoes, the antenna is bushy, whereas in female mosquitoes, the antenna is less bushy. Bushy means it contains hair kind of structures. So that's about head. So it contains large compound eyes, a pair of large compound eyes, a long proboscis for biting, and a pair of palpae and a pair of antennae. So these are the parts in which are present in the head. Next is thorax. So in thorax, it basically has two important structures. One is wings. A pair of wings are present dorsally and three pairs of legs are present ventrally. Next is abdomen. So abdomen contains 10 segments. So but last two segments are modified to form the external genitalia. So that's how generally these body parts are classified. Next, coming to the life cycle of mosquito. So usually mosquitoes completes its life cycle in four stages. One is egg. So here you can see the egg, and then larvae, then pupa, and adult stage. So basically, it has four different stages in its life cycle: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. I'm not going all these things in detail because I hope all of you know these things in detail before only. So not going in detail all these things. So next coming to the important thing, that is vectorial importance of mosquitoes. It means that what are the various mosquitoes, what is its breeding places, what is its habits, what is the lifespan. So all this vectorial importance is very much important to know the different types of mosquitoes, breeding habits and biting habits, all these things which are important to prevent the diseases. Okay, how the diseases, how to know, to get the knowledge about how the disease, how it transmits the disease and all those aspects. So that's why it is important to know the vectorial importance. So first is the critical density. It means a minimum certain level of density should be required before it transmits the disease to the community. So it has to maintain certain density. Okay, it has to reach certain density, then only it can transmit the disease in the community. That's called as critical density. Next is lifespan. So lifespan is nothing but it takes around 10 to 12 days for the mosquitoes to transmit the disease. Okay, after the blood meal. Next is feeding habits. So feeding habits, as you know, the males usually doesn't feed on the animals. So they feed on plant juices. Only the female mosquitoes which feeds on the animals. Like it, so that means they need blood meal for its feeding. Okay, so that's why they are called as hematophagous. So they take blood for their survival. Okay, it can be two types: so anthrophilic and zoophilic. So anthrophilic means it feed on the humans for the blood meal, whereas zoophilic it feeds on the animal for its blood meal. Okay, so there are two types: anthrophilic or zoophilic. Basically, the female mosquitoes which actually transmits the disease, not the male mosquitoes. So you should know, because the male mosquitoes doesn't feed on the animals, it feeds on plant juices. Next, coming to the resting habits. So resting habits is nothing but where exactly it rests. So it is of two types, endophily or exophily. So endophily means which rest indoors on the walls, means which prefer to rest indoors. It means inside the house on the walls. Whereas exophily means which rest outside. So some mosquitoes which rest on outside of the house, which prefers to rest outside. So example for this is Aedes. You can Aedes mosquito. So Aedes mosquito is usually endophilic because it always lives in the inside the houses, especially any artificial containers or where any artificial storage of water, wherever it is. So it likes to stay inside the house. So all these points are very important to know how the it is transmitting the disease. How can we put the control measures to control these mosquitoes? Next is the hibernation. So hibernation means when there is no favorable conditions are present, when conditions, environmental conditions are unfavorable, some of the adult mosquitoes can undergo hibernation. So it enters into resting period. Next is the dispersal. So dispersal means how much it can fly. So the mosquito can fly. So the range of flight is usually more for Culex mosquito compared to Aedes mosquito. So maximum Culex mosquito can maximum fly up to 11 kilometers, whereas Aedes mosquito can fly up to 100 feet. Okay, this is very important. That's why we know, the yellow fever that is not present in India because the flight range is very less. Okay. So next, coming to the time of biting. So at what time usually the mosquito bites? The mosquitoes are usually nocturnal. So they bite during the night time, especially during evenings and the early hours of night, except the Aedes. So Aedes usually bites in daytime. That's why it is called as Aedes mosquito is called as day biters. Okay. Next is breeding habits. So breeding habits means where it breeds the eggs. So it is different for different mosquitoes. So Anopheles usually prefers to breed in fresh water. Culex breeds in dirty water like sewage or cesspools and all those things. Aedes mosquito breeds in artificial waters. These points are very, very important for putting the control measures. And the Mansonia mosquito, it breeds in aquatic plants. So like pista plants and all those things. So Anopheles is a freshwater breeder. Culex is dirty water breeder. Aedes usually breeds in artificial containers, like artificially wherever water gets collected. Okay, in those places, and Mansonia usually breeds in aquatic plants like pista plants. So these are the different breeding habits of different mosquitoes. So brackish water means brackish water is also nothing but a fresh water. It means it has slightly saline. It means like where the sea water gets mixed with the river water. So it's slightly saline but not as salinity as the sea water. So that's called as brackish water. Okay. So next, coming to the differentiation features of Anopheles mosquitoes from other mosquitoes like Culex, Aedes or Mansonia. How to differentiate these various types of mosquitoes. So coming to the eggs, the Anopheles mosquitoes usually lay eggs singly. It means it lays the eggs in single. Okay, it doesn't form groups. And the shape of the eggs are board shape. Whereas the other mosquitoes like Culex, Aedes or Mansonia, they lay eggs in clusters like in groups, and the eggs are of oval in shape. Okay. Next, coming to the larvae. So larvae usually larvas of mosquitoes usually lays on the surface of water. They are usually present in water, right? So how it lies to the surface of water? The Anopheles mosquitoes, it rests parallel to the surface of water. So the larvae rest parallel to the surface of water, whereas Culex, Aedes and Mansonia, it makes an angle to the surface of waters. So that's the main difference between Anopheles larvae and Culex or Aedes or Mansonia larvae. Okay, Anopheles larvae doesn't contain siphon tube. So it rests directly parallel to the water. It doesn't require siphon tube for respiration. So siphon tube usually helps for respiration. Whereas the Culician, so Culicians are basically Culex, Aedes and Mansonia mosquitoes. So they contain siphon tube for getting oxygen or whatever from the surface of water. It takes the respiration through siphon tube. Next is adults. So coming to the adults, when it lies on the surface, the Anopheles adult mosquitoes, it makes an inclines an angle to the surface. Whereas the other mosquitoes, it doesn't make any angle with the surface. Okay, it exhibits the hunchback. So to get better understanding, if you see this picture, you get the better understanding. So here the first is Anopheles, then Culex and Aedes. So Anopheles eggs usually they lie separately, individually, single. Whereas the other mosquitoes, it lies in groups. So you can see here, it lies in groups. Next, the larvae. I told Anopheles, it lies parallel to the surface of water. Okay, this lying parallel to the surface. So here you can see these two other groups, they're lying with an angle and it has a siphon tube here to getting for respiration. Okay. Next is adults. So last picture, if you see here, the resting position, as Anopheles, I told you, it makes an angle and lies on the surface. Okay, it rests on the surface. It makes an angle. So you can see this is an angle. It is making an angle. Whereas others, it doesn't make any angle and it exhibits hunchback appearance. Okay, these are the differentiating features of different mosquitoes you must know. So these points are important in the Viva. They will ask you how the eggs are laid, how larvae is present to the surface water, and how the adults rest to the surface of various mosquitoes. So these things are very important. Next, coming to what are the diseases which are transmitted by various mosquitoes. These are very important for us. So different types of mosquitoes and the diseases. Let's see. So Anopheles usually causes malaria, and some parts of the world it also causes filaria. But in India, the filaria is mainly caused by transmitted by Culex mosquito. Right? So what are the diseases which are transmitted by Culex mosquitoes? Bancroftian filariasis, Japanese encephalitis, West Nile fever, viral arthritis. So these are the diseases which are transmitted by Culex mosquito. So most commonly we know filariasis, Japanese encephalitis, right? And sometimes nowadays we are more commonly seeing the viral arthritis also, which are transmitted by Culex mosquitoes. And next is Aedes. So Aedes mosquitoes transmits usually dengue, chikungunya. Okay, but outside India, it also transmits yellow fever. So we doesn't have yellow fever in India because Aedes has very short flight range. I have told you before also. So because of short flight range, it cannot fly longer. That's why luckily India doesn't have yellow fever. Next is Mansonia mosquito. It transmits Brugian filariasis and also it transmits the chikungunya fever. So among these in India, the important diseases are Anopheles causes malaria. Anopheles transmits malaria, and the Culex transmits filaria and Japanese encephalitis and some viral arthritis. And Aedes mainly transmits dengue and chikungunya. Mansonia mosquitoes transmits Brugian filariasis and also chikungunya fever. So these are the important diseases which are transmitted by mosquitoes in India. So next, coming to the control. How do you control the mosquitoes? What are the various approaches or various ways you can control the mosquito like vectors? It is called as integrated vector management or integrated approach. So integrated approach is nothing but by taking more than one measure or more than one preventive measure to control the transmission, okay, of these vectors. So it can be biological, it can be environmental. I have already discussed with you in general in arthropods when we were discussing there are various control measures like environmental control, biological control, chemical control, genetic control, on any newer techniques, and importantly, the health education. So combining all these methods and implementing all these methods together is called as integrated approach. So there are a lot of benefits or advantages with this integrated approach because single method is not effective for controlling of these vectors. So let's see what are the various methods, how it is used. So integrated approach, it is defined as the approach which avoids excessive use of any one method but tries to combine one or more methods with a view to obtain maximum results with minimum inputs. It means that so we combine various different types of methods instead of using one method because one method is sometimes one method only if you use single method it is not effective, and also you can see some sort of resistance. Okay, suppose if you are using chemical control, so some mosquitoes get resistance to certain chemicals, and also it is very harmful also. If you use more chemicals, it is obviously harmful to humans also. Right, it pollutes the environment. That's why we combine and use different types of methods to obtain the maximum results with minimum inputs. So basically it is to prevent the environmental pollution with toxic chemicals and also to prevent development of insecticidal resistance. So that is the main purpose of using this integrated approach. It means combined use of one or more methods to obtain maximum results with minimum inputs. So that's called as integrated approach. So what are the various measures under integrated approach? So it can be broadly classified into four types. It can be anti-larval measures, it can be anti-adult measures, then is protection against mosquito bites, next legislative control. So anti-larval measures means these are the measures which are used to control the larvae of mosquitoes. And anti-adult measures means which are used to control the adult mosquitoes. Next, protection against mosquito bites. So some of the protection measures which are taken to prevent the bites, that is personal protection. And legislative control. So legislative control means by putting some laws. Okay, so these are the various types of measures. So let's see what are the measures in detail. This integrated vector control approach is very, very important for you. It is a main question for you. Okay, so under anti-larval measures, we have environmental control, chemical control, and biological control. So environmental control, as I told you, it is source reduction. Wherever the source of this larva production is there, by reducing that. Okay. And then chemical control by using chemicals. Then biological control means by using gambusia fish. So which little bit I told you before only. Next is anti-adult measures. So anti-adult measures are basically used to prevent the adult mosquitoes. So examples are space sprays, residual sprays, and genetic control. Basically, all these are sprays. We use fogging. I think you must be knowing what is fogging. So it's like spraying the chemicals. Okay, that's how you can prevent the adult mosquitoes. Next is protection against mosquito bites. So we use mosquito nets, we use screening or repellents. So these are the various types under these categories. So let's see these things in detail. First is the anti-larval measures. So anti-larval measures are basically classified into three types: environmental control, chemical control, and biological control. So let's see what are these things. So environmental control, it is the most important step in reducing the mosquitoes to eliminate the breeding places. So this is important step because it is irreversible. Means once you eliminate the breeding places, it doesn't again appear. Suppose if you are using chemicals, okay, through chemical control. Suppose if you are using DDT or something like that, if you are spraying something like that. So once this power of that spray gone, then again the mosquito starts coming. So that is irreversible process. Whereas this is that is reversible process. whereas this is an irreversible method and it is most safe method. Okay, environmental control just by eliminating the breeding places. Okay, it is just by removing if any drains are there, like any sewage open drains are there, or any other things, such things like any ditches or anything which are favorable for breeding of the mosquitoes. So removing all those things comes under environmental control. So this control is called as source reduction. So source reduction is nothing but wherever the source is there, source of production of this mosquito larvae. So you are reducing the source. That's called as source reduction. So this source reduction is done by filling, leveling or draining of the breeding places. Wherever the breeding places are there, you have to fill that place, like by putting some soil or anything, leveling the ground or any drainage is there, closing the drainages and managing the water. So that comes under source reduction. So for this measure to implement, we actually have a knowledge. We should have knowledge regarding what are the breeding places of different mosquitoes. If you know the breeding places, then only you can put the measures. Okay. Suppose Anopheles mosquito breeds in fresh water. So you should know that knowledge so that you can put if Anopheles mosquitoes is a problem for you, like malaria is common in certain areas. So you know which type of places to visit and you put this source reduction techniques, right? So let's see that in detail. Already I told you this, but again I'm refreshing you. So Anopheles mosquitoes breeds in fresh waters. So that's why if you are putting some control source reduction control measures, you have to put it in for fresh waters. In case of Anopheles, if malaria is more, and if next is Aedes. So if suppose if you find more dengue cases, okay. So it is important to know where exactly these Aedes mosquitoes breeds. So where Aedes mosquitoes breeds, it breeds in artificial containers, like wherever artificial collection of waters are present. So it can be waters like coconut shells or empty pots or any flower vases or any fridge or ACs, which where the artificial stagnation of water is there inside the house. So those places you have to empty it off or you have to remove that artificial storage of water. Okay, so that's how you can prevent the dengue. That is nothing but source reduction. You are reducing the production wherever the favorable source, wherever the breeding places are there. Let's come into Culex. So Culex usually breeds in dirty waters like sewage water. So if Culex is the problem for you, then you have to clear up all the dirty water or sewage water, whichever is present around the area. That's why these breeding places are habits are very important to know where exactly to put the control measures. Okay. So that then next we'll move on to other type of measure, that is chemical control. So chemical control is nothing but by using some kind of insecticides. So commonly used insecticides to kill the larvae or mineral oils, Paris green and synthetic insecticides. So these are all the various chemicals which are used to kill the larvae of mosquitoes. So first is the mineral oils. So mineral oils are nothing but applying oil to the surface of water to kill the larvae of mosquitoes. So this is very oldest technique which people used to follow. So how these mineral oils exactly acts and how it kills the larvae? It usually cuts off the air supply to the larvae and pupae that is present on the water surface, and that's how it kills the larvae or pupae. So the frequency of application is once in a week you have to apply, and the amount is 40 to 90 liters per hectare of water. Okay, that is the thing about mineral oils. So mineral oils, we use application of mineral oils are usually it kills the larvae simply by cutting off the air supply because it causes suffocation. If oil is present on the surface, it blocks the air. Okay, that's how it prevents the air supply to the larvae or pupa. So, but what are the disadvantages with this? So, it mainly causes the water unfit for drinking. Obviously, if you are mixing oil to the water, it is unfit for drinking, and also it is dangerous to fish which are present in the water. It also kills the fish. Most commonly used oils are diesel, fuels, kerosene, or some other mosquito larvicidal oils. So these are not the various types of mineral oils which are used, but nowadays we are not using this technique because it has a lot of disadvantages, like it makes the water unfit for drinking, and also it kills the fish. Okay. So next category is Paris green. So this Paris green is a larvicide. So this is a picture of Paris green. The color of this Paris green is emerald green. Okay, it looks like an emerald green color powder. It contains copper acetoarseniate. Okay, so the mechanism of action, how it kills the larva. It is a stomach poison. So when the chemical is ingested by the larva through chemical stomach poison, it acts as a stomach poison and it kills the larvae. It kills not only the superficial larvae, it also kills the larvae which are present at the bottom layers of the water if it is sprayed in a proper way. Okay, so that's about Paris green. The next insecticide is synthetic insecticides. So synthetic insecticides are nothing but usage of organophosphorus compounds. So examples under this are abate, malathion, pentheon, or chlorpyrifos. So among these we commonly use are abate and malathion. So these are the organophosphorus compounds which are also widely used for killing of the larvae. So that's about the chemical control. So next is the biological control. So how do you control the larvae by using these biological methods? It is the best method, I can say, the biological control, because it is environmentally safe and like eco-friendly. So under this method, we grow the fishes like which kills the mosquito larva. So example for those fishes are gambusia fish, lobster. It is also called as Barbados millions. So these are the two different common type of fishes which are used to grow for killing of the mosquito larvae. So this is called as biological control. So till here we have seen what are the various methods we use to kill the larvae. Those are anti-larval measures. Okay, one is environmental control. The other two things are chemical control and biological control. Next, coming to how do you control the adult mosquitoes. So there are three different methods to control the adult mosquitoes, like residual sprays, space sprays, and genetic control. So let's see what are these things. So first, the same thing here, the residual sprays, space sprays, and genetic control. So first is the residual sprays. So for residual sprays are nothing but these are the sprays. We use chemicals for spraying. Okay. So residual sprays means these are the sprays which are used to spray inside the house. Inside the house. So examples are organophosphorus or organophosphorus compounds like DDT, lindane, malathion, or OMS. So among these are DDT is the most commonly used residual spray to spray for killing of the adult mosquitoes inside the house. So DDT is the insecticide of choice, but using of DDT it has some limitations, because if you use the DDT more frequently, it can cause the resistance after several years of exposure. That's why always remember DDT has to be used at very limited way. Okay, but it is actually a good insecticide of choice. If adult mosquitoes gets resistance to the DDT, the alternative options are malathion and propoxel. We can use it. So, but it is very important, and you should make sure when you are using the insecticides, this DDT cautiously, because as I told, it can cause resistance over the years, and that's why it is important to periodically conduct the test determine or to detect the susceptibility of different mosquito vectors to various commonly used insecticides. So always you should have some frequently, periodically you have to test for the susceptibility. Okay, so that's about residual sprays. So these are the various types of residual sprays which are available in market. So this the round picture shows how the residual sprays are used inside the house for spraying to kill the adult mosquitoes. So next group is the spray sprays. So spray sprays, these are usually used to spray outside the house in the environment. Okay, I think you must have seen these kind of sprays very commonly, especially during this season. People come for fogging. This is called as fogging. They do fogging, right? The white color kind of thing comes from that machine. So you might have seen this. That the technique is called as fogging. So that these space sprays are usually used to spray or does fogging outside the house, in and around the houses. So most commonly used insecticide is the pyrethrum extract. So you can see right side, these are the pyrethrum flowers. So this chemical is extracted from the pyrethrum flower heads. Okay. So the active principle in this is the pyrethrum. So it acts as a nerve poison. So this insecticide acts as a nerve poison. Usually 0.1% of pyrethrum is used for 1,000 feet of the water. Okay, that's the about the space. So along with pyrethrum, we use some of the other insecticides like malathion or fethion also. So these are also extensively used for fogging. So this is the fogging, if you see. So that's how they do the fogging outside the, in and around the houses and outside the house. You might have seen this very commonly done here. Okay, so one of the biggest disadvantages with the space spraying is that it just reduces the mosquitoes temporarily. Okay, again, it can causes reinfection. Okay, after a short while, after fogging is done, after a few days, again the mosquito starts appearing. So that is the most important disadvantage or limitation of this space spray. So next coming to the other method, that is the genetic control. So this genetic control is still in the research phase. So here what they do is genetically they do some modifications in the genetic material of the Anopheles, any vector for that matter, any mosquito. Then we do some genetical changes, and that's how we can kill the mosquitoes. So methods which are used on sterile male techniques, cytoplasmic incompatibility, chromosomal translocation, sex distortion, gene replacement. So all these methods are basically the simple principle it follows that. So it prevents the sexual cycle to happen. So it prevents the propagation of the mosquitoes by doing some changes in the gene. Okay. So that's about the genetic control. It is still under research phase. So it is important at the end of. Next, coming to the advantages of this genetic controller, it is cheaper, potentially more efficient, and it doesn't cause any vector resistance. So, well, if it comes in the, it is still under research. If it comes into implementation, it is actually it is very good to control the vectors. Okay. So next is the protection against mosquito bites. So apart from anti-larval measures and anti-adult measures, it is also important measure, that is protection against mosquito bites. So what are the measures we have? So we have mosquito nets, screens and repellents. These are the different types we commonly use to get protected from the mosquito bites. So first is a mosquito net. So you should know some important basic things here. You must know that is it gives the best protection, I can say. Using mosquito nets is the safest method, and that gives the best protection because it doesn't have any other side effects like getting resistance or environmental pollution or any other things. So this is the safest method if you use it properly. So basically the mosquito nets are white in color and it is treated with insecticides. So sometimes these mosquito nets are treated with insecticides like DDT or malathion. It is properly coated with insecticides. And whole of the mosquito net is also important. The dimensions of this mosquito, the holes which it has is also important. Usually each hole should be of 0.045 inches in diameter and each square, one square should at least contain 150 holes. That's how you have to construct the mosquito net. Making mosquito net, you have to follow these dimensions when you are making the mosquito net. So we have two different types of mosquito nets like insecticide treated bed nets or long lasting insecticide treated bed nets. It means it's nothing but these mosquito nets are coated with insecticides for more protection. Okay. So two types are there, insecticide treated bed nets and long lasting insecticide treated bed nets. That's about mosquito nets. So mosquito net dimensions are important. The whatever holes, each hole of the mosquito net, it should be 0.045 inches and one square inch at least it should be of 150 holes in each square inch of the each square. That's about mosquito nets. Next is screening. So screening also you might have seen most commonly used personal protection in many houses. Like screens we usually made up of copper or bronze. It has again while making the screening it is important to keep it thing in mind that each square inch of the screen should have 16 meshes in it. Okay, and it is to be frank it gives excellent protection but only disadvantages with this is it is expensive, so everyone cannot be affordable. So best and least expensive and more economical is the using bed nets or mosquito nets. Next, the last thing is the repellents. So all of you know these different types of repellents which are used to, which are applied. Some are like applied or some are like mosquito coils or anything like DEET and all those things. There are so many different types of repellents are available in market. So that's the thing. So I have completed this. Next class, we will continue the entomology. We will discuss the other arthropods. Today we discussed in detail about the mosquito and the diseases which it transmits and how to control the mosquitoes. So next class we will discuss the remaining arthropods, like remaining group classes of arthropods. Okay. Thank you.